We mustn't be seen as being racist, sexist, homophobic, all the rest of it, okay? This group are untouchable because they have particular characteristics, but this group must take the blame for absolutely everything.
It isn't just necessarily mass immigration or black or brown people that are killing this country. It's the policies that we're implementing. So here's a different example. Have you heard of the Piccadilly Undercroft? The tunnel from the gay village to a bit of the northern quarter where the Rochdale Canal goes down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's an underground pathway. Commuters use it during the day. You'd never go down there at night. And it's used as a cruising area for gay men. So if people don't know what cruising is an area where gay men can go and they just have sex with each other in the open. Yeah. It's basically called lewd behavior. It's illegal. But they keep out the way under that tunnel. But unfortunately, canal boats go through there and family canal boats go through there. So when I was running the city centre in terms of crime and antisocial behaviour, I got lots of complaints of families saying, I was on holiday, I went through there, and my 6-year-old daughter is saying to me, Mummy, Daddy, what are those 12 men doing with each other? And 12 men would be having open sex with each other on the side of the canal. So we put CCTV in there with a microphone so the operators could go, excuse me, that's illegal, I'm phoning the police. We thought that would solve the problem. And it didn't, because the CCTV operators would tell me they have sex parties and they wave to us while they're performing sex on each other. So that didn't stop it. So eventually we said, we're going to have to come down hard on this. We're going to start arresting people. So we started designing an enforcement plan, what we were going to do. Then someone found out and went, right, well, first of all, you need to engage with the gay community. You can't just go down arresting gay people. That could be homophobic. So when we spent a year engaging the gay community, we went to Pride, we had stalls asking people about it. 99% of people, gay people we spoke to, said, that's disgusting what goes on down there. It needs to stop. So eventually we had all the evidence we needed that we're not homophobic. And a month before we started the enforcement, the bosses closed it all down and went, oh, we're not going to tackle this. This is nothing but a headache to us. We're going to be in the press about being homophobic. And that's when I said, excuse me, what you're saying now is there's 2 laws in this country. So if you're gay, you can do certain things that a straight person would be arrested for. And they went, Nick, quiet. It doesn't work like that, But they ended up closing it all down. So we did no enforcement because gay men are allowed to have open sex, group sex in Manchester City Centre in front of children. And it's not illegal in Manchester City Centre. That was the message they sent out.
It's an extraordinary example, but I'm not surprised by it at all because of all the reasons you've just said. Because once you go down that route, and we started going down this route, I don't know, 20 years ago, of identity politics, that zero-sum game of identity politics of this group are untouchable because they have particular characteristics, but this group must take the blame for absolutely everything, then you get the social cohesion begins to break down, right? And I you could see that kind of 10 years ago, right? But now, after come on, right? After Me Too, after BLM, after lockdown, where everyone went crazy, after trans, and now after bloody Hamas, for God's sake, you know what I mean? We see hate marches through the city centres every Saturday. We've seen unfettered anti-Semitism, all of that kind of thing. It all comes down to what you've described. All of these things are alternative iterations of the same thing, aren't they? Which is this particular group, we mustn't say anything about them. We mustn't upset them. They can go around wreaking havoc because we mustn't be seen as being racist, sexist, homophobic, all the rest of it. Okay. And it just, that trust in, when you've been talking and when you've just been talking about what you've been talking about, I've had this word trust in my mind. We used to have a fairly high trust society, even in big cities like Manchester and London. There used to be a sense of there's a right and a wrong, and if you break the law, you're going to get your collar felt, and it's the same rule for everybody. I think that high trust society started breaking down when All right, there's been a long march through the institutions for about 30 years, hasn't there? But longer, well, since the 70s. But when the public started feeling, when all of the identity politics went on steroids, as I've just said, and it went on social media, all of that stuff, trust then broke down because I don't expect to be treated fairly in the eyes of the law anymore, right? Don't, right? Because I'm a white, fairly middle class, even though I come from a working class background, but you know what I mean. Um, able-bodied, all of that kind of stuff. I'm the worst demographic, so I'm the one that they blame for everything. Okay, so I'm not going to get the same treatment that a newly arrived asylum seeker who can't speak English, who's never paid a penny of tax, who's living in a hotel, all of that. I'm not going to get the same treat. They're going to be treated better than me, and I've paid tax for the last 35 years, right? That's just the way it is. So what tends to happen, and I don't know what viewers think about this, but you tend to kind of take your ball home and say, right, well, if I'm not, and you shouldn't do this. It's the last thing you should do. But you tend to think, well, I'm not going to invest in this community because this community isn't investing in me, right? And I'm saying that's the last thing you should do. I mean, it's the last thing you should do, but you can't blame people for doing it. I'm not going to invest in this community. It's not investing in me. In fact, it's treating me as a second-class citizen. And we saw, didn't we, the aftermath of the Southport abomination. People very rightly upset, and wanting answers and knowing they were lied to. Now, I'm not condoning violence or anything like that. I'm really not. But there was a sense that people were being treated massively unfairly because of who they are, because of what they were saying, and literally because of the color of their skin. And I talked about civil war at the beginning of this conversation. This is another reason why we're heading to the foothills, low levels of civil war, civil unrest, massive distrust of everybody, cities breaking down, and so on and so forth, because people like me cannot feel confident that they will be treated fairly, and taxpayers feel as though they're being disproportionately punished. It's just the worst situation, and it's extremely worrying.